I don't know if you guys have been seeing it, but there's been some interesting acquisitions of bigger businesses strategically acquiring personal brands. And in this video today, we're going to dive into what's the reason behind that. Why are these big companies making these investments in individuals and the platforms they've been building? But before we dive into it, guys, I got to remind you, please like, subscribe, do all the things that we need you to do to ultimately help reach more people with the content we're putting out. So let's dive into this to try to understand it a little bit better. So naturally, we work with personal brands all day, every day. So we're a little bit closer to this. And what's cool is some of our clients are in this place of actually being acquired by big businesses. And these are strategic acquisitions. And so we're not going to talk about, details that maybe aren't in the public domain. But what is becoming clear to us is that there is a trend, right? There's a trend of bigger businesses embracing this idea of personal branding, and two, actually going as far as making some strategic acquisitions of established personal brands that align with their business, the audience they're trying to kind of reach, at the end of the day, to drive more traffic into the products and services that they're selling. So what's cool is as we dive into this, it's become clear to me, just from my analysis of the situation in the market right now, that there's really three key reasons that these companies are leaning into this idea of personal branding and starting to make these acquisitions. And what's important to understand before we dive into what these three things are that I'm seeing is that influencer marketing, this idea of leveraging individuals as an extension of your business brand to promote your products and services, to humanize it, make it fun, reach new segments of the market and drive that traffic back to you. That's not new, right? That has been and will continue to be one tool in the toolbox and an element of the kind of marketing strategy for businesses. But what's really interesting is that this trend we're seeing is kind of a nod towards this slight shift in strategy of saying, hey, let's not always just outsource our influence, right? Let's not just always outsource our influence. We have one very influential thought leaders inside your own business that you need to be intentionally looking at how to more tactically elevate and build their personal brand as a seamless extension of the business to do all the same things that those other outside influencers might be doing for you, plus a lot more, frankly. But also this new trend of actually making strategic acquisitions. Both of those are a nod towards, one, we understand the role of humanizing the brand and using individuals as an extension of the brand to reach new people in new ways. Like they understand that. But again, starting to kind of insource some of this work, through existing personnel or new personnel is kind of the bigger shift that I'm seeing. And again, it's not that influencer marketing and all that's going away, but my prediction is that we will see, as more and more high-level people in big businesses understand this tactic, and feel that ultimately controlling the experience and not outsourcing it to somebody else and being able to leverage the alignment that comes from that, of leveraging people internally who care about the brand, know it inside and out, and more authentically are influencing a platform, and a bigger and bigger platform if people support them and get behind them, actually unlocks some value that outsourcing to outside kind of influencers can't, right? So it's not one or the other, but I think there's this interesting trend that's ultimately driving an uptick in bigger businesses being more intentional about acquiring and or building out the personal brands of key people on the inside and insourcing their influencer marketing strategy. Let's call it that. But the three key things that I picked up on that I wanted to share with you, beyond just this trend of insourcing more of that personal branding strategy versus outsourcing it all to influencers, is really that the number one reason I believe is that it's humanizing the brand. We all know that the bigger the business becomes, that it's harder and harder to kind of allow consumers to understand the people behind the brand, and you have to be more and more intentional about that. So I think the number one thing is that, this helps a bigger business kind of humanize the brand with one or more individuals through this acquisition, and just use that to kind of see all the benefits that come from humanizing the brand. Specifically, and some of these stats are awesome. They come from our Trends in Personal Branding national research study, but 72% of Americans are more likely to trust someone with an established personal brand. And so what that tells us is that, businesses across the board, I don't care how big you are, they're a huge part of customer acquisition is trust. People, they know you for one, and they trust that you will take care of them and provide, quality services, and they're willing to spend their money with you. So if having a personal brand accelerates trust and humanizes it, then obviously bigger businesses are looking, okay, how do we do that? By making strategic acquisitions of established personal brands that have an audience. They're already kind of known in a space that aligns with the space we're in. And so rather than trying to build our people up, not that we won't do that, but to accelerate our strategy in this area, we'll go out and make some strategic acquisitions to humanize, as well as a couple other key things that I'll get into next. So the second key thing is kind of obvious, but it's worth pointing out, is the ability to leverage their influence, right? So, company marketing, selling products and services to various segments of the market, right? A key part of doing that is influencing consumer behavior, right? You have the ability to kind of build trust with people and then encourage them to take the next steps to kind of opt in for free or put their credit card information in, whatever, the sales process may look like for you. But there's no question that if you're able to leverage the influence that somebody else has already established with a decent sized audience, that's going to help you shortcut, basically tapping into the trust and influence that they've already built with their audience and leveraging that to accelerate driving traffic back to your business. And so another cool stat here is that 82% of Americans, they agree that companies are more influential, okay, if their executives have an established personal brand, right? So it's not that we're not branding the company anymore, right? That continues to be part of business best practices. But we're just rounding that out. We're diversifying that. We're diversifying our influence by also being intentional about executives having established personal brands as well. So again, maybe those are built up from within, or maybe those come from strategic acquisitions of established personal brands, which we happen to be talking about here. So the third and final thing is also really important, is it helps them grow sales, right? It helps you, drive growth of your top line revenues, right? So that's what we want, is the ability to have a transfer of trust, use that influence, and ultimately activate that influence to drive new traffic and new sales into the business, right? And so third final stat that's really cool here is 58% of Americans are willing to pay more, invest more of their money with someone that has an established personal brand, okay? So again, all of this boils down to people knowing, that you're part of a bigger business that provides, some stability and security and all that good stuff. So it's not one or the other, right? But it's complementing the business brand with the personal brands and using that to humanize it, accelerate trust, leverage influence, and ultimately grow more sales. Because again, 58% of Americans are willing to pay more money to somebody that has an established personal brand, right? If you think about why, it's that, man, they're out there, they're perceived, right? And oftentimes they are, a thought leader. They know what they're talking about. I feel like I know them, right? So like I'm willing to go ahead and invest more with them, or invest more with the business that they represent. So again, whether you're building up from within, or whether you're making strategic acquisitions, which we're talking about here, there is no question that it's becoming a larger and larger part of business strategy, period, nowadays, to make sure you're leveraging the power of personal branding to help humanize the business, differentiate yourself from the competition, and ultimately drive more traffic and sales and growth of your company at the end of the day. So if you're not looking into it, you better start looking into it, or you're going to be gradually, left behind by the competition. So hope this was valuable. Again, if you don't mind, if you're enjoying the content, please like, subscribe, do all the things we need you to do to just reach more people. Until the next video, hope you guys have a good one.